Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Wednesday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national, and I'm happy to be here with you, taking your calls and a little bit open phones across America. Something I want to get into right now, though, of course, big news of the day. The markets rallied big time. Now, not to break my own arm, patting myself on the back, but for those of you that listen every night, or for those of you that want to go back into the archives at richvaldez.com, feel free. When I said, about next week, I think I said it Friday, might have said it Thursday, I said, by next week, we will see a rebound in the markets, maybe, midweek. I think midweek is Wednesday, that's today. And there we go, up 1,500 from being down 1,300, so sounds good to me. If you didn't buy the stuff when it was low, you should have. And you know who told us that? E.J. Antoni told us that. Steve Moore told us that. All of these guys that know this stuff way better than I do. That's how the markets react. Trump pushed them down for a second. Whenever you see anything going on and the markets drop, buy. Anyway, so that was a big deal. And because of that and the pressure that was applied, everybody and their mama wants a deal. Now, of course, there's been a lot of criticism of Trump, a lot of critique on, I don't like the chart he's using. I don't like the emphasis on deficits and trade deficits and this and that. Okay, it's all fine. It's fine. Really, it's all good. And why do I say that? Not because I'm a sycophantic, blind Trump person, which many want to believe, but that's not the case. It's because I see the big picture here. Trump, he says it all the time. He's got to get people to the table. He's looking to make a deal. There's a long-term goal here, right? And the long-term goal includes several different components, right? One of which is strengthening the dollar. Now, of course, critics right away, well, he didn't strengthen the dollar with this move. Not today. Right? This is, you're laying the foundation. It's like, I'm building a kitchen. What do you got to do? You got to rip down the first wall. I'm not saying you got to destroy the whole system. You're not going to bring the house down. But you sometimes have to break up a little drywall to put in a new piece. Right? Especially if it doesn't work. I'm trying to use these analogies as sparingly as I can because there's some people out there that think you have to absolutely destroy everything in order to rebuild. And I don't believe that at all. But cryptocurrency is a real thing that isn't going anywhere. If you're older than me, you don't like cryptocurrency unless you've made a lot of money with it. And you say something like this, I prefer cash. I'll mess with the markets, but I don't know about this digital stuff. It's like they can take it away. I don't know. I feel more comfortable with precious metals. That's fine. That's just your age. Your age has nothing to do with how the rest of the world moves around you, right? That just means, 40 years ago, those were the people saying, I don't know about the roll-up windows. Those motors burn out. I like the roll-up windows. I don't want those power windows now. Just give me the regular roll-up windows. Good luck getting roll-up windows today. Everybody loves a good power window. And if you had 10 friends that have had power windows their entire life, right, people my age or a little younger, how many of them have had those burnt motors that we're talking about? I've had 20 cars since I turned 16. 22. And those 22 cars I've had, I think I've had one car that one of the windows didn't work. One. Why am I saying this stuff? Because times change. And the dollar isn't going anywhere. And we're not going to join the BRICS consortium. And we're not going to abandon the dollar. I do believe we will end the Fed eventually. I do believe that the dollar will somehow be backed by something like a precious metal or something more valuable like rare earth minerals. Who knows? Which is why I haven't seen Trump making too many moves for gold. the way China and the rest of the BRICS people are. But I've seen them making a lot of moves for precious metals. I mean, for rare earth minerals. So, okay, maybe that's the move. So now the question becomes, what does that little juncture look like? How do we tie crypto into our financial system? How do we make all of that work so that the dollar is strong? It remains the world's reserve currency. It operates as something that also backs a particular crypto, or the U.S. crypto dollar, whatever you want to call it, digital dollar, which we're very much against because we don't want to be controlled by our government. But at the same time, in order for trade to continue, that's the way it's going. And we have to be the leader. We can't be the follower. Right? Since when does the United States follow? So ultimately, right, and we have a digital dollar that's in use for interbank transfers, which eventually will be used for everybody. And I'm not advocating for this, right? Listen to the words I'm saying carefully. I'm saying I like roll-up windows, but you can't get them anymore. So Trump is paving the way to make all this stuff work, to have a dollar that's worth something, backed by something, so it's not fiat currency. He's trying to eliminate as much government spending as possible so that the debt can actually be paid down, so that interest rates have to come skyrocketing down. We're not talking about a 1 or 2% drop or a 0.25%, which is what he's asking Powell to look at doing now. 0.25%, 0.5%, great. But just remember what happened when Trump was president. For everybody with those short memories, everybody and their mama was buying a house. People were earning about $6,000 or $7,000 more per year, median household income. Home ownership in every minority group went up. People were building wealth, right? You're buying real property. You're buying, and how are you doing it? With a 1.5%, 2%, 3% mortgage. Everybody loved it, and everybody's locked into those. So what are they going to do? Sell those and get an 8%? Lose their shirt? Lose their entire nest egg? No. So we've seen what can happen when you allow this economy to be robust. Get out of the way and let this thing work, and that's what we need to do. So here we are, and we're trying to make it happen, and everybody's getting in the way with every excuse you can imagine. Oh, well, we should focus on other industries, not on manufacturing. Oh, but we don't have to harm Wall Street in order to get here. Oh, but we shouldn't have to do this, and we shouldn't have to, and let's focus on trade deficits. All right, great. Bottom line is, you see what happens when everybody plays ball. That's more than half of the point here. Get people to play ball. So you get to this zero tariff place, right? I got some audio. I spent all my time blowing hot air here. I hope there was some benefit in what I just said, because I was really wanted to play a clip from an economist named Peter Schiff. And Mr. Schiff, I think he explains this well, but from the negative. And I don't agree with him entirely, but I wanted to play the clip for you. But I don't have time now. But I promise I will have some time to do it in short order. Now here, I have to do something, but my computer doesn't work because I can't see anything. So we're flying blind, right? Imagine it's like when the teleprompter goes out for the TV people. Radio people don't have teleprompters at all, ever. So we do everything by magic, right? The magic that flows right out of our mouths. And I'm trying to locate something. Let me see. I may have almost located it. Today is Wednesday. Nope, not that one. Anyway, folks, I always talk to you about something that I think is very important, right? Today we're talking about the markets. We're going to talk about the markets some more. But I want to talk about this conversation that we have together, right? Because this conversation that we have together, I think it's an important one, right? Why is it important? I can tell you why. It's important to me because I love this stuff, right? I love being able to connect with you, all the American people. What I love more is that you all have the freedom to do it from wherever you are. Whether you're in your car, you're in your job, You don't have to be in front of a television. And I'm not poo-pooing TV. I love TV. But there's an intimate connection that's made on radio. When I meet people, I've been at like a store ordering something and, just cash or charge, sir. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll do charge. Do you take debit? Something simple like that. And somebody will tap me on the shoulder and go, are you Rich Valdez? I know your voice. And that blows me away because if you saw a TV person from the back of their head, you wouldn't recognize them. But people hear my voice and they're like, wow, I know this guy. And on top of that, most people, they're like, oh, I like this guy. There's a handful of you that don't like me, like David and Jerome and the rest of our buddies that call in here and beat me up. But all that aside, it's because of the connection that we're able to make with these long segments that we have in radio because we're able to connect. And if you love radio or podcast or the news, like I do, you got to get the C. Crane CC Radio 3 because this is what we've got, right? This thing delivers exceptional spoken word audio. The clarity makes it feel like me, your favorite host, is right there in the room with you. The CC Radio 3, it pulls in this long-range AM, FM signal from anywhere, right? You can get stations from all over the place with exceptional reception. And you even get emergency features like the NOAA weather and a 2-meter ham band, which is fantastic. Thank God I've never had to use that. But if you ever need it, it's there for you. It runs on a power cord that comes with it or a set of batteries that give you 170 hours of listening. The CC Radio 3 is what they call the, quote, almost anything, end quote, radio, right? And why? Because you can listen to everything. You can listen to your favorite podcasts, your favorite radio shows, your favorite music with Bluetooth from any smartphone or any smart speaker. You can use your Alexa, whatever you want, connect it to your CC Radio 3, and you can go ahead and stream from there. Now, I want you to order one for yourself. I want you to order one for your friends, for your family. They're not very expensive, and they're really high quality. The CC Radio 3 is available by calling this number. I'm going to give it to you. Write it down. 800-522-8863 or 800-522-8863. Either way, you can go to the website. Visit C. Crane. I'll spell it for you. ccrane.com/rich. That's CCRANE.com/RICH. And you're going to use code RICH, RICH, at checkout for 10% off any order that's over $75. So do that now, ccrane.com/rich. I'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And earlier we were talking about some of the news of the day and, of course, Trump announcing a pause on the tariffs because the market was up. But that's just one big part of the news today. But there's a bigger story going on. And I want to get to some of that bigger story with our guest because there's a new book out that I think everybody should take a look at. And it's one of those things that if you have a chance, you should definitely put in the time to check it out because the book is called From Mar-a-Lago to Mars, President Trump's Great American Comeback. And like I said, today's news is just a part of that larger story. And the storyteller is Nick Adams. He was appointed by President Trump to the board of the Smithsonian. He's a New York Times best-selling author. You've seen him on Fox News. I see him on social media all over the place. And he's got a heck of an accent, right? Nick Adams, welcome.
Good evening, Rich. It's great to be with you.
Thank you, brother. Good, same here, man. So congratulations on your book. And tell me about this. I mean, you could have written about anything in the world. Why did you write about this specific story, From Mar-a-Lago to Mars? Tell us about that.
Look, I wanted there to be a comprehensive analysis of President Trump's policies, life's journey and living political legacy. And this book, From Mar-a-Lago to Mars, it chronicles the MAGA movement and its unique place in American history. Usually when people write books about President Trump, Rich, they're either writing it because they really hate him, or they're writing it because they're just trying to score some points or break some news. I'm writing it from the point of view of someone that supported him since the 16th of June 2015 when he came down the escalator. I've supported him from day one. I've been there from the beginning. I've seen it all unfold. And I kind of walked everybody through 2015 all the way through the first term, then the unfortunate incidences that occurred there toward the end of 2020, and then, of course, this incredible comeback, one, Rich, that we've never seen before. And it's just, when you really think about, I mean, President Trump has changed the way people speak, think, and act. No president has had such a profound impact on the culture in modern American history. Not since Lincoln has a president so reshaped the very conception of the United States. Before President Trump, politics was downstream of culture, Rich. But now, because of President Trump, culture is now downstream of politics. And he's just changed the way the world works. He single-handedly ended the age of globalism and created a new global order based on the pragmatic interests of nation-states. And that long globalist nightmare came to an end because of this man. He's been consistent throughout his career in terms of policy. Since the 70s and 80s, his interviews and books have highlighted our unfair trade agreements, our self-suffocating regulations, our punitive system of taxation, and his golden age has made America great and exceptional again. We're once again the leaders and going to only continue to be even stronger leaders in innovation, invention, creativity, and manufacturing. And that's why I wrote the book. I wanted people to really understand President Trump's unique place in history.
Outstanding. Folks, we're on with Nick Adams. He was appointed by President Trump to the board of the Smithsonian. He's a New York Times best-selling author. You've seen him on Fox News as a contributor. And he's written this book, From Mar-a-Lago to Mars, President Trump's Great American Comeback. And we're going to continue our conversation with him. Nick Adams, we're up against a pause in just a moment or so. But in short order, I love what you're saying, because I think you've hit the nail on the head. And I love the approach that you've taken. Because I don't know if it's the accent or your eloquence, one of the two, that makes it sound so palatable. But I feel like I say the same thing every day, and people beat me up for it. But I agree with you. Trump has changed the world order on so many things, and a lot of it is because he, for lack of a better word, he has the balls to implement certain very big ideas, very bold ideas, that I think people don't really acknowledge for what they are or what they're worth. So I want to get your take on that when we return. Folks, we're coming right back with Nick Adams, Trump appointee to the Smithsonian, New York Times best-selling author, and check out his new book, From Mar-a-Lago to Mars, President Trump's Great American Comeback. Don't move a muscle. Rich Valdez coming right back with Nick Adams.
Look at Rich Valdez. He's now a radio host, and he's a great radio host.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
If I could just add to what the Secretary said, many of you in the media clearly missed the art of the deal. You clearly failed to see what President Trump is doing here. You tried to say that the rest of the world would be moved closer to China when, in fact, we've seen the opposite effect. The entire world is calling the United States of America, not China, because they need our markets, they need our consumers, and they need this president in the Oval Office to talk to them.
Now, why is it that the media misses this. And obviously when the media misses it, I think so much of the rest of the world misses it because they regurgitate this idea that Trump is using these heavy-handed, crazy approaches, which I think are just different. But I want to come back to that question that I left off on with Nick Adams, our guest. He's the author of the brand new book that you got to get a copy of, one for yourself, one to give away, From Mar-a-Lago to Mars, President Trump's Great American Comeback. Nick Adams, when we see that President Trump is oftentimes misunderstood. I oftentimes chalk it up to they don't understand New Yorkers. I'm a New Yorker. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, so it's very normal to me to see that type of bravado. But I think oftentimes it's personality. People just don't get him. But I think it's more than that. I think there's a hatred based on the betrayal. He was once a Democrat. I don't know. Why do you think people misunderstand him so much and not understand this art of the deal?
People are threatened by confidence, Rich. They're threatened by people that believe in themselves. They're threatened by people that are prepared to just speak their mind all the time. And they're particularly afraid, as I make the point in my book, From Mar-a-Lago to Mars, they're particularly afraid of people that are authentic. And Donald Trump, no one can dispute his authenticity. No matter where he is in the country, Rich, he's always wearing the same suit. He's always wearing that same solid colour tie. He never changes his distinctive Queen's accent. He never tries to pander. He never tries to adapt and adjust himself to his environment. He is authentically Donald Trump. Take me as I am, like me, hate me. This is who I am. This is what I believe. This is what's going to happen. And he is a lion in a world of pussycats. He is a very strong person when weakness and mediocrity have largely been embraced by lots of different people. People have stopped dreaming big, and at the end of the day, that's why he faces such animus. President Trump has changed countless lives, though. I mean, I'm one of them. And this book offers insight into President Trump, the man, the leader, the legend. If you want to know about Trump, the businessman, read The Art of the Deal. If you want to know about Trump, the president who changed the world, read From Mar-a-Lago to Mars, because, like I was saying earlier, most books about President Trump are written by people who are too stupid to understand him. Others are writing because they're jealous or they're dejected. This book is written by me, someone who both loves, supports, and understands President Trump's special place in history. From Mar-a-Lago to Mars is a living history of our greatest president, Rich, but it's also a warning of what we will lose if we do not do everything in our power to continue his legacy. We can't afford to lose America. I'm a legal immigrant, naturalized American citizen. I've been in love with this country, its founding, the Constitution, the Declaration, the Federalist Papers, the founding principles, since I studied them at university. And there is no plan B. If America goes, freedom will be extinguished from the face of the earth. I cannot allow that, nor should anyone passively sit by and watch it happen. Now, President Trump, in supporting individual greatness, is allowing us to receive God's grace. Without individual freedom, the state exists to prevent us from understanding God. And because of this, President Trump has helped restore our ultimate faith as one nation under God.
Nick Adams, I love what you're saying. And as much as I enjoy your accent, I can tell you're not from Brooklyn like me. You're not from Queens like Trump. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Australia. I was born and raised there. I like to joke, Rich, that I was an American trapped inside an Australian body for the first 3 decades of my life.
Australia, but you identify as American.
Right, exactly. And look, I've always been entrepreneurial. I was always someone that wanted to colour outside of the lines. I always had a bit of a Trump-like personality, which is why I think I've always had this passion in supporting him, because I understand him. I kind of feel I'm not one of those people. I can tell you, Rich, and I talk about this in the beginning of the book when I talk about my personal relationship with him, and I've been very blessed to have a personal relationship with him. I was with him in the Oval Office just a couple of weeks ago, and in 2015, there were 17 people running to become the Republican nominee for president, and I had a connection to at least 6 of them. They had either blurbed my book, interviewed me. Governor Perry had made me an honorary Texan. I had all of these connections, and all of them were asking me to endorse them. One man that I'd never met, but I did read The Art of the Deal when I was 13, and in Australia, Celebrity Apprentice was there, so I was familiar with Donald Trump, but I'd never met him. I'd had no dealings with him, and I decided to support him out of all of the different people, even though I knew some of the other ones. And I did it, Rich, because I felt that this was the man that was going to change history. This was the Churchill of our time. This was a Washington-type figure.
What made you think that?
Well, you know, I realized that at the time America was beyond the point. I traveled all across the country speaking to different groups, and I could tell, Rich, that no politician, no matter how articulate, no matter how well presented, no matter how seasoned or experienced, they weren't going to cut it. America needed a real game changer. It needed someone that was going to lift them up, something they'd never had before. They needed someone to hit hard, and Donald Trump certainly was the man to do that. And I instinctively felt that, and that's why I supported him from the very, very beginning. And I lost a lot of friends, but I'm obviously very happy with the decision that I made, because I do believe, Rich, that he's the best president we've ever had. And I make that case in the book, From Mar-a-Lago to Mars. I think he saved the country from oblivion. Had 2024 gone any other way, we would have no manufacturing left. Our innovative minds would have sought greener pastures in Asia. Our First and Second Amendment would have been hollowed out. Crime would have consumed us. And an open border would have destroyed America's unique identity. On top of that, he's the peace president. World leaders no longer see the United States as one nation under many corrupt bureaucrats, but instead as an exceptional nation under God that is led by a man who embodies peace through strength. And no president has fought consistently for the people against such extreme odds. They tried to kill him twice, Rich. He's been arrested, sued, faced a rigged election, 2 impeachments, but none of this has deterred his willingness to fight for Americans who have been ignored and neglected by the political elite. Throughout his triumphs over adversity, which I go through extensively in the book, he has proved that it is never wise to bet against President Trump. He is the true comeback king.
That's the truth. You know, listen, Nick Adams, when I was a little kid, there's a housing development not far from where I lived called Trump Village, built by his father, Fred Trump. And that was what the Trumps were known for. That the LaFracs were known for building in Queens, and they were known for building in Brooklyn, and even though they were from Queens. And the youngest, well, not the youngest son, but the famous son, Donald, was, becoming a big guy, and he was probably in his 30s when I was a little kid. And he was doing his thing, and he started opening casinos in Atlantic City. And I remember, some of the licensing deals he did, or partnership deals he did, the partners went south, and there was bankruptcies. And I remember him saying, we lost money on the deal. We lost money on the deal. And they asked him, are you still a billionaire? And he said, you know what? I'll tell you this. If you think it's hard becoming a millionaire once, it is. But it's even harder becoming a millionaire twice. And I was probably 8 years old or something like that. I said, man, I love that line. That was great. Guys, he's the coolest guy ever. And he, at the time, he was buying the Chrysler building in Manhattan. And it was just really something like, wow, that's very cool. And that's the type of personality that he's got, right? That comes with that. So when you say that, that's what comes to mind for me. Nick Adams, I want you. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I have a similar kind of thing, Rich. Now that you mention it, in 2012, I was still living in Australia. I was following the election, and I remember for the Republican side, and I remember Donald Trump coming out and saying Obama had hosted this big fancy state dinner for the Chinese. And I remember Donald Trump coming out and saying, you know, if I was the president and the Chinese came, I wouldn't give them a blank fancy state dinner. I'd take them to McDonald's for 5 minutes and that'd be it. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, that's the guy. That's the, you know, I'd never heard anybody say something like that. And yet it resonated so much with me. So he's funny. He's charismatic. He's born for the job. When I went in and saw him and told him about this book, From Mar-a-Lago to Mars, Rich, a couple of weeks ago in the Oval, the first thing I said to him, I said, Mr. President, you look at home. And he looked, can I tell you, Rich, he looked really, really good. Because the number one question I get when I'm around, people say to me, I'm worried about him. And, you know, he's got so much on and there's so many people against him. How's he doing? How's he looking? Honestly, he looked like he had just gotten up off the hammock in the Caribbean. Right. He looked so relaxed, you know, so happy, but obviously just with a mindset now to really leave a legacy. And that's the other thing that's always attracted me. You asked me before why. I was attracted to his dreaming big. I mean, Americans, what I also loved about America, have always striven beyond the status quo. We're the land of the railroads, cars, planes, jets, rockets. And following the ignominious grounding of our space shuttle, we became a diminished nation. But under President Trump, we're moving now beyond moon shots and towards a Mars shot, the ultimate symbol of American dominance.
Nick Adams, I had like two more questions for you, but I got to take a pause right here. Are you able to stick around or do you have to go?
Absolutely, Rich. Anything for Rich Valdez.
You got it, brother. Folks, we're coming right back with Nick Adams. We're talking about his book, From Mar-a-Lago to Mars, President Trump's Great American Comeback. Don't move a muscle.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue the conversation. Of course, we're going to get to your calls and more open phones across America, a tradition since Larry King was the host of this show. Of course, continued by Jim Bohannon and continued by you and me tonight, 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337. I want to continue with Nick Adams, our guest from Down Under, who is been appointed by Trump to the board of the Smithsonian. He's written a book in the past, the New York Times bestseller. You've seen him on television. And he's got a brand new book, From Mar-a-Lago to Mars, President Trump's Great American Comeback. Nick Adams, I appreciate you making the time to explain the book to us thoroughly. And something that you got on the sheet that I have with the information on the book that I really wanted you to address was two things. And the reason I really wanted to talk to you about this was because sometimes as Americans, we can be, or anybody who lives in a country, right? You can become sheep, right? And I'll use even Australians as an example. When COVID hit in Australia, they were putting you guys in concentration camps. I saw the whole thing online. You know, I wasn't there, but I saw the COVID camps that the Australian government set up. And people were like, yeah, no, you can't do it here. And the cops are going in there as if that was the right thing to do. And it was crazy. And here in the United States, we had our own version of that. We didn't have those concentration camps, but we shut down our economy. We shut down this. We stopped being friends with our neighbor. It was crazy. Many of us stopped going to church. We've seen what it's like when groupthink can kick in. And sometimes it takes someone from another country to come to your country and say, you know, your country's it. And if your country goes away, we're all screwed. And I feel like that's part of your message. And you define it in the book when you're defining America's golden age and when you're talking about the ideas of nationhood and Americanism. Tell us about those.
Look, there's no question, Rich, that the United States of America is the pinnacle nation on this earth. And unfortunately, though, there's only one way that America is like every other country in the world. There is no guarantee that it will last forever. There's no covenant that exists that allows us all simply as American citizens to cruise on autopilot and assume that everything will just work out. I know this because there were a lot of good, hard-working and decent people in Australia that thought it would just all work out. It didn't all just work out in Australia, and actually, Rich, in many, many other places where people became ambivalent, neutral and complacent about their own country's destinies. We can lose what we have here in America. I came to America to make sure that that doesn't happen. I came to America to make sure that it doesn't turn into the country that I left a long time ago, 16 years ago. America has been my home. I'm a citizen. I vote in elections. My whole family is here. I am very passionate about America. And if you love America, it's really impossible not to love Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump, everything he does is based on his affection and deep and abiding love for the country. And people that can't see that, people that their hatred of the man is bigger than their love of country, I have a real problem with, because I think that they completely miss the point. I read The Art of the Deal and knew this was the man. Even before I was privileged to call myself an American, I was a Trump supporter, Rich.
Right. Me too. I've always been a big fan of Trump. Nick, I don't want to cut you off, but I want to make sure everybody has a chance to get the book. Tell everybody where they go to get a copy of the book.
You can go to Amazon, From Mar-a-Lago to Mars, President Trump's Great American Comeback. It's also available at Barnes & Noble and all good bookstores. But Amazon would definitely be probably the easiest place for most people these days, Rich. This is the book. I used to have two favorite books, the Bible and The Art of the Deal. Now I have three, the Bible, The Art of the Deal, and From Mar-a-Lago to Mars. It's everything you need to know about our greatest ever president.
Outstanding. Nick Adams, best of luck with the book From Mar-a-Lago to Mars. Folks, check him out at nickadamsusa.com, nickadamsusa.com. Nick Adams, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot, and I thank you for being here, brother.
God bless you, Rich. Thank you very much.
God bless you, too. Thank you. Amigos, we come back with your calls and more. Keep it locked right here.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Drug bust today. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Kash Patel were on deck in Florida announcing this.
This team, with all the agencies I just mentioned, used drones, aircraft, and ships to interdict the traffickers off the coast of Peru, Ecuador, and the Galapagos Islands. What they did saved countless American lives. Countless lives. This cocaine would have been distributed throughout our country and perhaps throughout our world.
Throughout the world. Well, we're going to have more conversation about that for those of you that are sticking around. For some of you, this is the end of the road. And if it is, I say to you, hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's the Wednesday night edition of the program, 7 minutes past the hour. We're live, we're national, and here's the phone number if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, 833-482-5337, 833-4Valdez. And like always, we're talking about the news. We talk about interesting topics, all sorts of things that are going on, different books that are coming out. You know, we try to keep it varied here, some entertainment news, but the news has been so heavy lately that there's just so much to talk about. Of course, if there's things you want to add to the conversation, I'm always game for that. That's what Open Phones Across America is all about, and we'll be doing that in very short order. So make sure you get your calls in for that. I promise to do a little less talking and take a few more calls. But I want to talk about some stuff. As you know, I spend my day monitoring the news, looking at stuff. Some of it I get on my phone. Some of it I see on social media. Some I see on Newsmax or CNN. I do watch CNN just to make sure I hear what they're saying. I don't watch a ton of MSNBC, but I watch plenty of those clips because some of their best stuff comes from there, right? And it's the best stuff to argue with since they won't come on the show. But one of the things that I saw that I wanted to share with you was an economist named Peter Schiff. I'm not sure if he's related to Adam Schiff, but and I say that jokingly. But this Peter Schiff, he is being very critical of the Trump policies, and understandably, like a lot of people are. I get it. You don't have to agree with everything. You know, not everybody understands this stuff, and I don't expect everybody to understand this stuff. I realize some people have a more myopic view of things, or a very old school view, global. I'm going to say globalistic view of things where, you know, that big shift we had back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s to the global economy and bringing the Chinese into the World Trade Organization and beginning offshoring everything to, again, why? To cover up their tracks, right? They were doing such a bad job adding to the spending, adding to the deficit, not necessarily at that moment, but it looks like it was on its way. Right, they were about to start bloating the budget and doing all the crazy stuff they did right after Gingrich and the Republicans signed the contract for America with then President Clinton and balanced the budget. Right after that, everything went to hell in a handbasket, as Bob Grant would say, and that's a shame. But we've been adding and adding and adding to the deficit, tons of deficit spending that hasn't gone away, and now it's become a way of life. Just like not balancing the budget has become a way of life in Washington. Just like becoming inordinately rich as a result of public service has become the norm. It's a way of life. Going to Congress is like hitting the lotto nowadays. But Peter Schiff, the economist, he has this long clip that I saw, and I couldn't help but disagree with a lot of points that he made. So I'm going to play this for you. I'll interject my thoughts as we go through it. Listen to this.
Donald Trump claims that the world has been screwing us over. They've been taking advantage of us, and that's why we have these huge trade deficits. And so what we need to do is...
I'm going to pause right there before we do that. These are not necessarily an integrated point. Right? When Donald Trump says the world's been screwing us, he's proved that over and over again. Right? The amount of security that we provide to the world, the amount of military equipment that we forget, leave behind, what Biden did in Afghanistan, this has become a norm. Right? This is almost a standard operating procedure because they come up with stories. And, oh, you know, it's so much money to ship it back home. Sometimes you're just better off leaving it. No, you're not. Right? Figure out a better way to get things around. That's what we have to start doing. Not saying, it's cheaper to go buy new stuff. I mean, in some instances, that may be the case. I once asked my organization for a printer. And I knew that there was a printer because there was a storage facility in the studio I worked at, and they were setting up a new studio for me. And I was like, there's a printer there. I could really use that printer. And nobody's using it. But they had moved it to another facility. So I couldn't physically grab it because it wasn't there anymore. But I was like, it was here. And they said, yeah, we moved it to a facility a little further away. And they shipped me a box, and I thought it was the one I asked for. And instead they sent me a brand new one. And I was like, oh, wow, I got a brand new one. How cool. And they were like, yeah, when we did the math, the courier price to get it from there and to have somebody go and take it out of the storage actually came out to more than what it was going to cost us for the new one. And that made sense to me because many years back, I had rented a storage unit and I kept some stuff in there. And after a few months, I was like, what am I doing with this stuff? I should have sold it for a fraction of the cost initially because what I've spent in storage thus far, what I was trying to protect, I had already eaten into whatever I was trying to protect. And I was now at a bigger loss because I'd spent all this money on storage. So point is, storing stuff isn't always worth it. You're better off selling it cheap and just moving on. It's cutting a loss. But anyway, that's a quick aside. Peter Schiff. So Peter Schiff
with tariffs, and that's going to solve the problem. And now they can't take advantage anymore because we're going to make them pay for the privilege of supplying us with goods. But it's our privilege to be supplied. They're the
Hold on
sucker.
a second. Is it our privilege to be supplied? I would say it's our privilege to choose that we want to be supplied by a foreigner or by an American. And this is an interesting point, right? People keep making these points. I don't know where they're hearing them. I don't know if it's somebody on MSNBC or CNN or their own original idea, but I keep hearing people say the same thing. And this is what they're saying. Doesn't matter how affordable we make things, how much you could tariff 4,000% in China. You're never going to be able to make it in the United States as cheap as you make it in China. I don't understand why this is even a standard. China literally murders people. Literally. I'm not saying by accident, people die on the job. No, I'm talking about forced labor. When a girl in America buys a wig, these are Muslims that have been taken into captivity, forced to grow their hair. They're prisoners. They cut their hair off. They sell it, and they're like, hey, we got human hair. It costs a lot of money. Of course it costs a lot of money because you have these human people that are not even willing to donate their hair that are held in captivity. A couple of years back, we had the former prime minister of what was once Turkmenistan. I don't know if you remember that interview. And he was explaining, he was reacting to a news article where they had caught one of the CCP people actually eviscerating one of these Uyghur women. Like literally like opening her belly like a C-section and taking her organs out. And she was found like sewed back together with organs missing. This is incredible, the stuff that goes on as part of their forced labor. So you're going to tell me if I go to, I don't know, Facebook Marketplace and I find a used item and I go to a store and I find the same item, if it's a closed box, not even open box, closed box, you're going to tell me that I should pay the guy on Facebook Marketplace the same price as I would pay, I don't know, at a big box store like Walmart or something like that? Of course not. Why would I? That guy doesn't have the overhead. That guy doesn't guarantee it. I may never see that guy again. So obviously I'm going to get it at a discount. China is that guy. Forced labor, child labor, people getting killed. I know a guy who did business in China. He used a factory out there. And when he went there, and he used to go once a year, and he said he went to a new factory. When he went to this new factory, they had these drawer-like systems. And I probably shared this story. It was a horrible story that I heard. And in these drawers, big wooden drawers, he found men sleeping because it was a 24-hour factory. And sometimes these men wouldn't wake up. And he said, what do you do with these guys? And the guy pointed. They had another pile of actual human bodies, people that died, and they would throw them in a pile and wait for like a coroner or whatever their process is to come and get the bodies and remove them. But the factory didn't stop. People were used to seeing dead bodies over on the side there. People that died from exhaustion. People being worked to death. You think they did that on purpose? Oh, I want to feed my family. No, it's just forced labor. Nobody in their right mind would do that. Nobody in their right mind. So now you're going to tell me we'll never be able to compete with China. Why would you want to compete with somebody who is using children and forced labor? The idea here is to eliminate children and forced labor. to eliminate the criminality, not to compete with the criminality. Go ahead.
For supplying us with goods that we can't really afford to pay for. The reason that we have trade deficits is not because foreigners have tariffs or because they're cheating. That's got nothing to do with it. The problems are in our...
Hold on. Who cares? Right? Trump talks about trade deficits. Okay, understood. The main one he's talking about is the trade deficit we have with China, saying that they are making way more money off of us than we're making off of them. Now, he has this chart and whatever, and a lot of people are taking exception to it, and I get it. Listen, this is a negotiation tactic. He's trying to make a picture, to paint a picture for everyone to see. And I think we saw it today when you have now 70 some odd nations coming to the table saying, okay, what did Trump say? Sure, let's go ahead and roll back those tariffs. You get a 90-day pause. We'll go back to 10%. You guys are our allies. You guys are our trading partners. We're good. You and us. We're good. Who we're not good with? China, that's at 100 and something percent now because they want to play games and they want to have a trade war. We need to have that conflict, not because we need conflict. Nobody needs conflict. We need to end the relationship and sever the ties. China has to be stopped economically. Period. The end. Go ahead, Peter Schiff.
Economy, not the foreign economies. We are uncompetitive in most of the manufactured goods.
Hold on. Again, we're uncompetitive in letting people die and sleep in wooden boxes. We're uncompetitive in being a massive pollution state like China is that doesn't follow any rules. We are uncompetitive in forcing women to grow their hair so we could sell it on the open market. We're uncompetitive with using child labor. Of course we're uncompetitive. We have scruples. We have morals. God. Go ahead.
That's why we import them. If we could produce all those goods cheaper, then we would be doing it. Donald Trump claims that the world has been screwing us over. They've been taking advantage of us. And that's why we have these huge trade deficits. And so what we need to do is level the playing field with tariffs. And that's going to solve the problem. And now they can't take advantage anymore because we're going to make them pay for the privilege of supplying us with goods. But it's our privilege to be supplied. They're the suckers for supplying us with goods that we can't really afford to pay for. The reason that we have trade deficits is not because foreigners have tariffs or because they're cheating. That's got nothing to do with it. The problems are in our economy, not the foreign economies. We are uncompetitive in most of the manufactured goods that we import. That's why we import them. If we could produce all those goods cheaper, then we would be doing it.
All right, this guy's repeating himself like a broken record. Listen, bottom line here is we don't do this because we can't produce those goods. When America was a manufacturing powerhouse, when I was in high school and there were factories all over Union City, New Jersey, North Bergen, New Jersey that were producing textiles, it wasn't because China couldn't produce them cheaper. Peter Schiff, where were you when that was going on in 1995, 1996, 1997? Did you forget that era of life? Did you forget the Industrial Revolution? Did we invent the locomotive and the airplane and the light bulb and the telephone and the phonograph and the television and radio and all of these great things because we did it cheaper than China would have? Do you hear how silly your argument is? Unbelievable that people buy this stuff. This has nothing to do with somebody can make it cheaper. There's always somebody that can do it cheaper. That isn't the point. The point is that the person doing it cheaper is getting the better of us, and that has to stop. Now, we'll get back to that in a little bit. I'm going to spend a whole lot of time on this in the next hour, but I wanted to just give you a taste of it because the stuff that's out there is just incredible. That Andrew Yang, he ran for president. Man, he's off his rocker. But right now, I want to bring back the story I mentioned earlier about this huge drug bust. And it's like the third one in the last month or so. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, and Kash Patel were on deck in Florida to do the press conference to announce the seizure of these 500, I don't know how many pounds of whatever it was. So we're going to get to that straight ahead, and we've got an expert weighing in. Jonathan Gilliam's going to be with us. He's an ex-Navy SEAL, retired FBI. He knows his stuff, and he's very, very serious in his analysis. I can't wait to have this conversation. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. Somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
This is what it looks like when the United States whole-of-government approach brings every resource to bear, from the Department of Defense and the United States Coast Guard, from HSI, from FBI, from DEA, and so many others. They are going to get all the drugs off the streets, off the markets, and as Attorney General Bondi said, we are going to lock them up. They are no longer going to be free to roam. We are going to dismantle the next man up theory that has been breeding in these Mexican cartels for generations. No more.
That is the director of the FBI, Kash Patel, announcing this interception of $509 million worth of illegal drugs that were interdicted from smuggling boats near Ecuador, Peru, and the Galapagos Islands. And that happened by way of the Coast Guard off the coast of Florida. And, man, this is actually off the Eastern Pacific. And they announced that in Florida today. Just really, really just interesting stuff that's going on. This is like the third one I've seen in the last several months. And it seems like there's a real war on drugs here that I feel like I haven't seen before, or at least it's getting more press than it's gotten in a long time. And I want to bring in one of the pros on this, Jonathan Gilliam, his former Navy SEAL. He's retired from the United States Navy SEALs. He's retired from the United States FBI. He's the host of the Experts podcast, the author of Sheep No More, and he's here with us today. Jonathan, welcome back, sir.
Hey, good to be with you, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So talk to us. What do you think is going on here? Are we really putting a dent in the cartels, or is it me just getting excited over nothing?
Well, I mean, I think you said it perfectly when the second part, before you introduced me, that I think it's just getting more press. I mean, yes, this is a huge seizure. Don't get me wrong on that. I'm not downplaying that at all. I think it's a huge seizure, and I think what's happening is because as the wall gets built and the amount of illegal aliens that are able to come across the border means that that avenue of approach for the cartels to deliver their drugs has also been closed. And so they're looking for other ways. So you're going to see these type of shipments, you're going to see the amounts probably go up because they have to move their product into the country. And if they close down one avenue, they're going to try to exploit another one. So you'll probably see more aircraft, more ships, small submarines. They have submarines that are just below the surface.
Well, I want you to tell us more about that in a moment. We're going to come right back. Folks, we're on with Jonathan Gilliam. He's a former Navy SEAL, former FBI agent, and he's going to break it down for us. We're going to get his take on what's going on with this and so much more when we come back. Keep it locked right here. It's Rich Valdez, America at Night, and Jonathan Gilliam. Don't go anywhere.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
We're here today because of your dedicated leadership to safeguard American lives, because you had the courage to follow President Trump's courage to put our children first and to make sure that the narco traffickers, and make no mistake, this administration has labeled them foreign terrorist organizations because that's what they are. There is no lethal force on planet Earth that is responsible for an overdose death of an American citizen every 7 minutes, more so than these federal terrorist organizations, foreign terrorist organizations.
That again, Attorney General Pam Bondi, joined by FBI Director Kash Patel, announcing that the administration's focus on labeling cartels as a foreign terrorist organization, now allowing them to use all the resources that are out there, full whole of government approach to get these bad guys. We're getting some analysis from retired Navy SEAL and retired FBI agent Jonathan Gilliam. Welcome back, brother. You were telling us about how as President Trump's administration locks down the border, it makes it more difficult for drugs to come in that way. They're going to be coming in other ways because such is the nature of the beast.
Yeah, and so this is you got to remember they're not an ideological terrorist group. This is a company. These cartels are ran like companies, and they have product that they want to ship. And so if that avenue approach is closed, they're going to find another avenue approach. What I would like to see, though, is I thought we declared war on these people. So, arresting 11 people, that's great. I'm glad that they got the drugs off the street, but I don't see that as a bragging point that weighs the AG and the director of the FBI to fly all the way to Miami to do a big press conference. I don't understand what's going on with this administration. I'm a huge Trump supporter. I've been supporting Trump and for as long as I've been in radio and TV. I got kicked off of Fox Business, never been back on because I told the truth on Varney, saying that the Democrats wanted Trump dead.
I remember.
But yet, if I put constructive criticism towards these agency leaders, I get hammered, not by a lot of people. Most people are agreeing with me, but some people are. You can't be a sycophant for these people. And I think that Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Pete Hegseth, and Kristi Noem, they need to stop with these social media press events for the sake of self-promotion.
Let me ask you, do you think it's the sake of self-promotion, or do you think it's part of a larger communications effort? Because you got to remember, we're dealing with the fake news media, and if you don't put out stuff that they can use and talk about, they're going to talk about whatever they want to talk about.
So you're exactly right. But what they need to be doing and showing is that they have a coordinated and systematic plan to purge the left out of government and out of these agencies, restructure the agencies, and start going after this criminal enterprise called the left. And if they don't do that, then in 4 years, if we lose the election, what if the left goes out? They've been going all over the place with signs that say 86-47, which means kill Trump. What if they go out there and do that? What's going to happen then? These agencies need to be cleaned up now, and that needs to be their main priority. And then, if we're going to go to war with the cartels, let's go to war with them. If we're going to hit Iran, let's hit Iran. But we need the Secretary of Defense to be in Washington, D.C., cleaning up and running his agency. We need Kristi Noem, who has 28 agencies under DHS, to be at her office, running those agencies, cleaning up the place, not going down to El Salvador with a $60,000 watch, looking like she's going to go have mimosas. I don't think it's the right image, and I don't think that they're spending their time wisely. Right now, we have the opportunity of a lifetime, and what it does is it overshadows great things like this huge bust today. That's my opinion on this.
Yeah, listen, I hear you. I don't know that I share all of the same views, but it sounds like that you're saying we're doing all right, but we need to do more. And I'm with you on doing more, and I think they're likely to do more as well. What I find interesting is the approach, right? I don't think that we labeled the cartels FTOs for no reason, right? I think that there's likely going to be some action taken there. I don't know the rhyme and reason to it. During your time with the SEALs or with the FBI, what was they weren't labeled FTOs, but if that were the case, what would the approach be? Or I guess, what do you recommend? I've heard people, even Trump, talk about, when he was negotiating with Mexico over the wall back in the days when he was president 1.0, he was saying things like, look, if you don't do that, we'll use the full strength of the military. And he got them to move. Now we've done this, and it's there, and he's getting them to do whatever they've done thus far. I think he's dealing with a lot of domestic economic stuff now. But should we go back to that, where that becomes forefront? What's the approach? Should we be bombing facilities in Mexico to stop them from producing the Chinese precursor chemicals? Is that the approach, or what would it be?
Well, I think it's one step at a time, right? So we know that they're still producing and shipping these products. I mean, look at the bust that happened today, right? So that's a massive quantity that was coming over in a different way, which means we're not effectively stopping it. We shut down one avenue of approach, but we're not stopping the drugs from being created, from the money from the drugs. Because if that's one shipment, there's lots more that are hitting the street. And right now, at this point, ICE and DEA and FBI and all these agents are all inundated with getting the illegal immigrants out of the country, arresting these dangerous people and getting them out, that the manpower that is needed now and the best way to hit these people would be through intelligence work, through the Air Force and Special Forces, and start targeting these people. Until we do that, the shipments are going to continue, and you'll get 11 arrests here and a big amount of drugs there, but they're going to keep coming in. And so what it all boils down to is the same thing that I said. Why I'm so aggravated about this is that let's pick our missions, and let's have these agency leaders focus on the mission and start systematically carrying this out. Just like we want to declare war on the drug cartels and label them terrorists, well, then we should start doing what we would do with any other terrorist organization that's at our border. But when it comes to all these other things, Tom Homan sets the standard. He was hired for that job. He's doing that job. He's managing it well. He's not out looking for news hits like Pete Hegseth yesterday did over 12 social media posts, none of which was about restructuring the military or getting people ready to bomb Iran or
is that something you think they want to telegraph? Like, hey, we're going to bomb Iran? I don't know that that's a good thing.
He was in Panama. He was in Panama giving a speech about what they're going to do to China. I mean, should he be doing that? I mean, the fact is, there is missions that the DOD should be focused on right now, and we need a Secretary of Defense to be focused on those things. He has not been at his office hardly at all since he's been there, going and doing PT and doing basically a media hit all over the world with troops. We only have, Rich, we have 3 years and 8 months left to get all this stuff done, because we don't know who's going to take over. We don't know what games the left. These people are not out of government. All these leftists, they're still in all these agencies. And right now, I think that admiral that just got fired over NATO, right? What got her fired was that she told her staff, we will just wait them out for the next 4 years.
Well, yeah, that's how the deep state works. Yeah.
That's exactly, so she got fired because of what she said. She didn't get fired because they sought her out as one of the leftists and got rid of her. And there's a big difference in that. And so I believe in transparency, but I do not believe in performance. And if that is the answer, I think your question started this, is how do we do this? You concentrate on performance. What is the mission? How are we going to carry it out? And let's have a strategic plan that we effectively go in and tactically complete. And that is across the board with all these agencies. I don't see it being done.
All right. And now, for people that want to hear more of your analysis or your critiques, your opinions, where do they go? What's the best place to get you?
Right now it's on X, because I've been going back and forth with people about this. But, I'm on all the news platforms, but I'm on all the social media platforms as well. They can always find Jonathan T. Gilliam on any of those things. And again, I want to just point out, Rich, I love this president, and I want this cabinet to succeed. But if they're not going to focus on the particular thing, which is destroying this country, which is the left, if they're not going to focus on this organized criminal enterprise that has been destroying this country and do it systematically across the board in all these agencies, in 3 years and 8 months, we will not have a solution for this.
Understood, brother. Folks, Jonathan Gilliam, retired SEAL, retired FBI, friend of the program. I want to thank you for your analysis. Thanks for being here. I think you're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot, and I'll be talking to you again real soon.
You got it, my friend.
Thank you, brother. God bless. And amigos, we'll continue. I want to get your thoughts, reactions. Do you agree with Jonathan Gilliam? Do you disagree with Jonathan Gilliam? Are we doing enough? Are we not hitting the cartels hard enough? What's next on that agenda? Your calls and more coming up right now.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Hi, Rich. Great show. I've been listening to you the last few weeks. Very happy about the great work you're doing there.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
America, welcome back. To the phones we go. Want to get your thoughts, opinions, and analysis on everything that's going on in America at night. And we're going to start off with Sandra. She's in Membres, New Mexico, KNUW. Sandra, go right ahead.
Okay, so I agree with Jonathan McCollum, the Navy SEAL that was just done. And if we look at the history of what Trump has been through, from the left, the last 4 years, and the ruin and destruction that he's trying to restore right now in our country, we can't afford to go through this again. I was concerned before he left office last time that this was going to happen. And he's up against a lot of different decisions. He's doing great with trying to make our country safer and all the illegals, moving them out, and these killers and murderers. I'm thrilled about that.
What exactly is the concern that you have, Sandra?
Well, that we don't, just like Jonathan McCollum was saying, that we don't want the Trump presidency end after 4 years, and then he's hoping maybe he gets all the right people in office. But,
I see. Like, time is of the essence. You want to make sure we get it done, and we get it done quickly, because there's only a few good guys and a whole lot of bad guys inside Washington. Is that right?
That's right. And if when Trump's gone, and then whoever's leading or whoever's in charge, we're going to have a bigger. Trump already had a hard mess and almost lost his life. Okay, and almost prison and everything else. We can't go through this again. We can't expect that every step we're going to take, unless we hold them accountable. The 51 that signed that. The
intelligence agents who said that the laptop was not a real story.
Right. Indicting these people, they have to be held accountable. And as Trump and his administration takes us on, it's so important for the sake of
and I just want to add, I agree with you that there needs to be accountability for anybody who's done anything that's been fishy, right? All the funny business that they've been doing. The problem I run into, and it's a frustrating one for me, is I would love to play fast and loose like a lot of people out there. They're like, put them all in jail. But the reality is, I know that if you're being fair, you can't put them all in jail, right? Some of them, a lot of these people are operating within the scope of their work, or at least bringing it up to the edge of the scope of their work, so they have some sort of qualified immunity. Now, I'm guessing, I've never been an FBI guy, but if I'm sure the same way that Comey and McCabe and Strzok and these guys invented everything they invented for General Flynn and for Trump and for Don Jr. and for everybody else they tried to frame and set up, the same could be done to them to get them on the hook. But I think there has to be a difference in life where we don't do that. And I think a clear example that we've recently seen of that is President Trump saying, you know what, I don't know that I even like Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City. But because he was very public and vocal going against Biden on immigration, they came after him. So it seems. And at least that's the position that President Trump and his administration, the Deputy Attorney General, announcing that the case did not seem meritorious and it appeared to be lawfare. This was not necessarily a defense of Eric Adams. right? I think Eric Adams is probably engaged in some corrupt behavior and probably is due for a visit by the FBI. But what they were saying he did, it seems he didn't do. And that's the problem we run into, that the accountability isn't always an indictment. It isn't always the orange jumpsuit. It isn't always jail time. And I think sometimes when that doesn't happen, many people feel kind of let down. And I think we just have to adjust our expectation, or maybe I need to adjust mine. I don't know. Maybe you're right on this one, Sandra. But thank you for your thoughts. I appreciate it. Folks, we have calls from Idaho, Atlanta, New Mexico, more calls from New Mexico, Chicago, Bethlehem, New York. I didn't even know there was a Bethlehem, New York. I thought it was just Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So we're going to come to you guys straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Straight over to the East Coast. Drew, Bethlehem, New York, WGDJ. Go for it. Speed round.
How you doing, Rich? I love your show. I think you talk about really good stuff.
Thank you.
I want to go off the guy that was talking to you before, the Navy SEAL, how he said you got to go into stuff more hard. What about these politicians like Crockett that they find out that after she becomes a senator, she buys $1 million mansion or a couple $1 million mansion, a townhouse. I mean, all this stuff. They also got to start.
Well, I don't want to defend her, but she's rich. She came into Congress rich. She grew up rich. She went to some really ritzy private schools. She comes from money, and she just ran in a district that I think was kind of impoverished and kind of comes across like she grew up in the hood or in the streets, but she didn't. I mean, there's a bunch of file tape of her. If you see her, she's really prim. She's really proper. I think that's just she's one of those. She just I think she comes from money.
Yeah, I think she does too, but it just seems like, here she's only making like $180,000 and she buys.
Yeah, and to your point, a whole bunch of Congress is like that, right? You've got Elon Musk and the Doge people that said they were going to do a whole investigation into why is it that you get elected to Congress and it's like hitting the lotto and you leave and you're like, a gazillionaire. And I get it, when you have these protections, and I think that's probably the bigger question, right? How much protection do people get? Today, Adam Schiff was riffing. I wish I had time to play this clip because I could do a whole 20 minutes on this. But Schiff is out there saying, we're going to look into what's going on in the White House, because he was upset that the market rallied to 1,500 points and the Dow, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was index was 39. And he was saying, if the White House intentionally pushed the market down so they could go and buy a bunch of stocks when they were low, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. And I was thinking, how would you know about that scheme? Is it something you've done, sir? The stuff that they say is crazy. I'm all on board with you. We need to clean up our act. And I think that's what Gilliam was talking about, too. He said, look, we need to make sure that we're getting rid of the swamp. And I'm with you. And I think Trump is dedicated to that. I think just like a lot of people who've never worked in government, it's a lot harder than people think. Even when the people you think you can trust, you turn around and they're like, oh, you too? Man, a lot of swamp creatures around here. Anyway, thanks for the call, my brother. I appreciate it. Drew in Bethlehem, New York, WGDJ. Folks, we got calls from Delaware, Chicago, New Mexico, Vermont, Georgia, Idaho. We're coming straight back to you guys. Open phones across America. We got a whole other hour coming up. Keep it locked right here. If this is the end of the road for you, like our friends in D.C., hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to another hour of the program. We are live, we are national. It's 7 minutes past the hour, and I want to give you the phone number if you want to join us. We're going to get to your calls momentarily. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez is our phone number. Join us on our late night national town hall conversation. I don't care if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. I'm here to have the conversation on everything that's going on in America at night. Now, some of the things I want to get into tonight, there's a lot of things that I want to get into, but I want to really focus on the tariff stuff, but specifically with China, right? Because there was a lot going on in the news today, right? There was so much talk, and, you know, I don't know where to start. I'm trying to pick the right place to start because I want to beat up Andrew Yang a little bit. You may not know who he is, but he's this obscure figure, a guy from New York. I don't think he's ever been elected to anything, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but he's like a progressive type that ran for president on the platform of universal basic income. And I don't know if you remember that, right? He was talking about giving everybody $1,000 a month. And his supporters were all like my kids' age, you know? They were like, wow, we're getting $1,000 a month for free. Super, sign me up. And I think, you know, he appealed to a cross-section of people. But ultimately, it was a very small cross-section of people, right? Anyway, he was on social media along with Peter Schiff and a lot of people, right? There's a lot of people right now. It is the let me beat up on Trump hour. But after today's rally in the markets, which were big time, all right, big time rally today, I think there's going to be a few less haters, right? Because people tend to jump ship when their pocket gets affected. Those that are really on board have known for a while the economy's going to get rough before it gets better. And when it gets low like that, buy. Perfect time to buy stuff. I tell you, I would have picked up a ton of Apple if I could afford it, if it was cheaper. But it only got as low as 197, right? I think that's what I saw it at, 197 yesterday. And I didn't look at it this morning because this morning might have been my opportunity, but I didn't do it. And it was, I think the average was like 225, 250, something like that. So, I mean, not a horrible thing. But anyway, there's another one I'm looking at, NVIDIA, that I'd really like to get my hands on. Very cheap, but probably missed the boat on very cheap. And anyway, point is, and of course, Newsmax. You know, anytime there's a dip there, you want to grab as much of that as you can. Newsmax are really hot stock. And again, I'm not giving stock advice. I'm not a stock person. I'm just telling you what I would do if I woke up and on time to do it and remember to do it when I woke up. But such is life in late night radio. Anyway, Count Delacula, do we have something on the markets going up today? I'm trying to see it here on my sheet. We do not. But we do have Caroline Leavitt outside the White House announcing that the media has clearly missed the art of the deal today. And she also was talking about the president adding an additional tariff on China. We're going to get to that straight ahead. But I want you to hear what Andrew Yang had to say. Listen to this.
What do these tariffs mean to you? Things are going to be more expensive. A lot of companies are going to be letting people go because the costs are higher. Why is Trump doing this? In theory, it's to try and create American jobs, but he's not doing that right because number one, you would target specific industries. Number two, you would give everyone a heads up. Number three,
Hold on. He's going too fast for me. I'm not that bright, Andrew. So we would target specific industries. Now, I think I understand what he's saying. He's saying rather than have a blanket approach to providing tariffs, we should say, no, we're only going to tariff automakers, or we're only going to tariff this person or that person, right? I think the issue that we run into here is he's missing the grander point. Trump is using a filtration system, if you will, right? He's filtering through people. If that isn't clear yet, I don't know how many other ways to explain this stuff. Because it makes so much sense to me, but I realize it may be difficult to articulate. And it is for me. He says everybody's getting tariffed, but we have a free trade agreement with you. Everybody's getting tariffed. You don't build in America, you're getting the tariff. How much is it? It's 10%. How much is it? Keep talking. It's 20. How about you? China? You're 50. What? 125. What's going on here? Is he bullying everybody? No. He's making it very clear the United States is not playing games. The United States is not for sale. Now, but what about all the faulty math? The charts don't make sense, this, that, and the third. Who cares about trade imbalances with some little country nobody's ever heard of? Clearly, nobody cares. So then why talk about it? Because he's trying to make a point. He's trying to help illustrate a larger picture to you. Do you realize if we can make some money on the deal, right? The Treasury, because he's trying to get the country out of debt. I realize that tariffs are import taxes on Americans buying imports. I get it. I've never liked tariffs. Anybody who listens to me understands that I am constantly saying I don't like tariffs. They are taxes. It's not like China is paying this money. It is the American people paying this money. But that doesn't mean I don't support what Trump is doing. Well, that's duplicitous, Rich, and it doesn't make sense. No, it makes tons of sense. I support America first. I support putting America in the driver's seat. If I have to, and I use this example every night. I can't think of another one that's better. I'll tell you this. I don't drink beer. I really don't. It's not a beer I like. I'll drink a Corona from time to time, but honestly, it bloats me so much. As I get older, I really can't do it. I like the taste of a Corona with a lime, super cold, okay. But there's another one I like, and only in a frosted mug. It's called Águila. It comes from Colombia. Águila is a pretty good beer. Okay, so again, pretty good in my opinion because I don't drink beer. But let's say I want to buy an Águila, and it's imported from Colombia, and we have a tariff thing going on. So I'm buying an imported beer, and they say to me, well, the Águilas are now $14 because of tariffs. Think I'm going to keep buying Águila? If I love it, I'll keep buying it, and I'll love buying it. I have a friend in California who goes to a craft beer place, and he pays something like $20, $22 for a beer because they make it in this one place in San Diego. He's happy to buy that beer. He loves that beer. It's not very hoppy. It's got the right amount of barley. He loves it. Okay, he can afford his $22 beers. Not everybody can. Got it. Guess what? There are beers that they make in America that you can buy cheaper. That is the point. Stop the addiction to China. Stop the addiction to foreign stuff. Stop the criminality of what is going on with all of this stuff. But Andrew Yang doesn't seem to understand that. Go ahead.
Transparency about how long they have to plan. They're a bad idea being implemented terribly, ineffectively. It's value destruction on a scale I cannot believe. I am shocked that even Trump is dumb enough to do this. And I'm sorry for all the people that are going to be suffering at the grocery store, at their place of employment, or because, in my opinion, this just elevated the chance of a recession.
Andrew Yang seems to be blind or have hit his head and forgotten all the people that were suffering at the grocery store the last 4 years. I don't remember Andrew Yang beating up on Joe Biden saying, as dumb as Biden is, even he shouldn't be doing this. I don't remember that. Do you? But yet here he is running his mouth, flapping his gums. The reason he's talking slick like this is because he's joining a bandwagon of people that think it's cool to hate on Trump when Trump's actually winning right here. I mean, just look at what's happening. You've got countries all over the globe, 75 nations that are saying, yes, we want a better deal with you. We want to do business with you. Do not cut off access to the United States. And he's got China saying, F you, F you, F you. What does that do in the international community when the whole globe can now see that China is not our friend? They want to sell us everything, but they're not our friend. So, Andrew, take notes because it's clear you don't understand this. Phase one, you shock and awe everybody. You let them know that the U.S. means business. Phase two, perhaps you target these specific industries as you're suggesting, and it doesn't even have to be targeted. The specific industries will fall right into line by this natural process of filtration. It's just happening, right? Because the people that need to get their products to us will, and they're in specific industries. Then you adjust the pressure as necessary. China needs more pressure? Great. You're up to 125. Keep talking, right? At least that's how my parents raised me. You get smacked at one time. Go ahead. Keep talking. You get smacked again. That's how that worked because you had to be tough. This is why Andrew Yang lost. This is why so many of his supporters don't support him. This is why he doesn't inspire any confidence with his supporters, not even his own followers. You look at some of his social media stuff. Yeah, a guy who has a huge following, by the way. And now they're just like, man, we don't trust you anymore. Because they don't, because he's misunderstanding this. Now, I want to get into this China stuff and tariffs because Trump made some very bold pronouncements today, and we're going to hear some of those when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I love your show, everything you do. So what an honor, really, to join you and your listeners tonight.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez keeping you company all night long. We're going to your calls momentarily. But first, I want to get some analysis and insight on something. And before we do that, I want you to hear this clip of audio. Of course, President Trump announcing a 90-day pause on tariffs for anybody who did not retaliate against the United States. And last night, he put it very bluntly about how many people are interested in making a deal.
This is bigger than any deal. You guys, some of you work for companies. Your companies are peanuts. I don't care how big they are. Compared, this is the largest transaction in the history of our country. And don't let some of these politicians go around saying, because I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir. And then I'll see some rebel Republican, some guy that wants to grandstand, say, I think that Congress should take over negotiations. Let me tell you, you don't negotiate like I negotiate. Congress takes over negotiating. Sell America fast because you're going to go busted. You don't. I just saw it today. A couple of your congressmen said, I think we should get involved in the negotiation of the tariffs. So that's what I need. I need some guy telling me how to negotiate.
There's President Trump again, just being very frank. And whether he's being frank or he's bluffing because he's a great negotiator, either way, it gets the job done. And this is why I think he does a lot of this. He has to oversell sometimes because things get lost in the media. When the media hates your guts, that's how it goes. And here, I think it's as true can be, right? You have these. When I heard Ursula von der Leyen, right, saying, look, we're looking for zero tariff. What's up? Let's make a deal. I thought, oh, look at that. Last week, she was beating the crap out of Trump from her little bully pulpit. Now, not so much. And that's exactly the type of tone that we need. We need people that are saying, look, I'm at the table now. Let's make a deal. That type of humility is how you get things done in good faith, not bad faith, like China. Now, I want to talk about China with somebody who knows a lot more about China than I do, because he's in charge of the China practice over here at the America First Policy Institute. And I think it's very important that we have the discussion with him because Alex Savit, Adam Savit from America First Policy Institute is not only in charge of the China program, but he knows exactly what's going on with these tariffs. Adam Savit, welcome.
Rich, thanks so much for having me on.
My pleasure. Thank you. And first, give me your reaction here to what you heard the president saying, that a lot of countries are now, kissing his butt. They want to make a deal.
Sure. Well, number one, we have to be thankful, in addition to the great policies, that we have the best stand-up comedian president in history, and it's always entertaining to listen to. But no, I think this is bringing a great deal of clarity to the China question because, and it's absolutely logical that he's putting China in a different category with almost all of this, in addition to Canada and Mexico. And actually, it's important to recognize China, Canada, Mexico are top trading partners. So that's part of why he's focusing on Canada and Mexico, which sometimes, especially Canada, people get puzzled about. But yeah, China is a country apart. It's a concept apart. And I always emphasize to people, back in 2015, 2016, this was not an orthodox view to think that China was our main adversary. It wasn't an orthodox view to, pull away from the free trade policies that we had at the time. Trump came out of sort of nowhere, came down the escalator, and he identified this strategic challenge, and he identified tariffs as the main way to approach this strategic challenge. And along with his U.S. Trade Representative, Robert Lighthizer, put in unprecedented tariffs in 2018, and it immediately changed the strategic picture with China. And so this is the next level. After a little, interregnum with the Biden administration, where essentially they kept those tariffs from the first administration, and this is 2.0. And although he's doing around the world tariffs, which is a revenue gain as well as an opportunity to renegotiate trade deals with other countries, the main target here and the main strategic play is with China.
All right, so we've got a couple of different things happening here, and I agree. And you can weigh in on your perspective, not that yours is right and mine is wrong or vice versa, because I'm really, looking to explore this. But it seems to me that when Trump does this, he, by default, he kind of isolates China, not the United States, as people think it's an isolationist policy, but it seems like China is now the odd man out that doesn't want to play ball.
I would agree. I mean, listen, there's a fundamental truth here that, China can hit back as much as they want. They can do a reciprocal, exact the percentage that we threw at them. It keeps changing, 54%, 84%. But the bottom line is they only have a third of the exports to us, or rather, I'm sorry, we only export a third to them that they do to us. So on the question of tariffs, they were always going to be in a more fragile position. They really can't play this game. And overall, the health of their economy is declining. They have a real estate sector that has blown up. It was overinflated. Local governments and province-level governments in China are trying to borrow from the federal government, which is also going bankrupt. Their population is aging. Their unemployment rate is at a record high. Basically, they don't have any more subsidies left. They don't have any more games to play left. And a lot of this is that, President Xi is trying to save face. He doesn't want to be the first one to back down. He doesn't have elections, but he does still have to keep his people happy. He still has to be tough in front of his people. So he doesn't really have anywhere to go. There's no good option for China right now.
Adam Savit from America First Policy Institute. I understand you've got another commitment at 11:30, so I know we can't hold you. But I'm looking forward to having more of this conversation with you, because a lot of people want to know, how do we even the playing field with China offering labor as cheap as they do? I've got my thoughts. I'm curious to hear yours. I appreciate you being here, brother. Godspeed to you, sir.
Thanks so much.
You bet. And amigos, your thoughts, calls, and reactions coming up now. Montreal, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Idaho, and more. The phone lines are ringing. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't go anywhere.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
That there, the voice of the late, great Larry King, who, of course, preceded my predecessor, the legend himself, Jim Bohannon. May they both rest in peace. And may we honor them and their legacy with some great open phones across America tonight. As he just said, right? Idaho, Pittsburgh, Montreal, Chicago. So let's go to Chicago, WLS. Let's check in with Nick. Nick, go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I want to say about this comment that Trump made, which I felt was inappropriate. I mean, it's the way Trump.
What comment is that?
Well, the one about that all the people who 75 countries that came to kiss his ass,
Yeah.
About the way he worded it. It was on the air.
Yeah.
That would be inappropriate in general, but especially if you want someone like Xi or some other leaders in that category from a totalitarian country, especially to be able to agree to something that would be a fair settlement, meaning fair to us and our country, fair to him, for his people, for his country.
Right, you're saying if you want him to play ball, talking like that's not going to get him to play ball, so then why would you do that? And let me ask you, Nick, why do you think he wants them to play ball? Do you think he wants China to come to the table, or do you think he's telling China, you're not allowed at this table?
Oh, no. It would make no sense at this point to not want China to play ball, to want to work out a fair settlement, something that will not be so advantageous to China. See, in the beginning, this whole setup was doomed to failure with China. I said when they started this.
Well, what do you think is the downside of not having China at the table?
Well, there's still a big political power controlling their own country, and that's not going to change.
That's fine. But what does that have to do with them selling us stuff?
Well, they need the money to be able to keep building up their military and keep.
That's their problem. I'm saying, what is it? Where's the downside for us if we say, "Hey, beat it. You're not involved in this conversation anymore. We're going to buy somewhere else."
Well, they're in this world. They can't avoid eventually dealing with us, if not in a good way, then in a bad way, and we can't avoid dealing with them. Why
not?
Look at Russia.
That's my question. Why can't we avoid them?
Because they're too big to ignore. They're like some bully who, maybe is subdued a little bit. And
what does China produce that we can't live without?
That's just it. We gave them everything, basically.
Just name it. Tell me what they produce that we can't get somewhere else, we can't source somewhere else, and we can't make here.
Well, the problem is that the country itself is.
Just name a product, Nick. Just name a product that they produce that we can't make here.
Well, we don't make televisions here anymore. I believe Zenith.
But can we make televisions here?
Well, yeah, sure.
All right, so you're saying there is no product that they make that we can't make here. So if we don't have them, it may come at a cost, but we can do everything that they're doing. We don't need them per se.
Yeah, that's a point. But I'm saying that you have to consider the political and military aspects of China. China is an aggressive.
I am. I'm trying to understand your point, because for me, I'm thinking if I don't need you, then why would I deal with you? Especially if it's costing me money to deal with you, and it puts me in a predicament where you may be an enemy of mine, and not you may be, you are an enemy of mine, and I'm here allowing my people to fuel your growth, economic growth, so that you can build a bigger, badder military to eventually come after me, to come after Panama, to go after, you name it, right? To go into Mexico, to go, they're trying to go everywhere they can to come after the United States. Not necessarily the United States. They're looking for global hegemony. So I think if I want to stop that hegemonic quest of China's, the last thing I want to do is put fuel in your engine.
Yeah, I understand what you're trying to say. I'm looking at it as I look at so many things years and decades down the line. And
okay, so let's do that too. I'm trying to figure this out with you. I'm not really arguing with you. I'm trying to think through it with you. So if we look at it years down the road and we stop giving China the, whatever it is, $1 trillion, whatever it is that they make off of us, and they stop doing that, and now they have to slow their growth in their military, their economic growth will slow because we're their biggest trading partner. Everything seems to slow down. Their economy is already kind of rocky at times. So if we have that type of effect on them, we're doing to them what we've done to back in the days, what we did to Iran. Now we are weakening them where they're no longer the force to be reckoned with that you're saying that they are. Doesn't that put us in a superior military and political position?
Well, here's the problem.
Well, do you agree? Yes or no?
Well,
it's a quick, easy one. Do you think if we beat them up and we take their money that they become weaker and that puts us in a stronger position? Yes or no?
It's half and half. Look, one thing we have to recognize is China is not going anywhere except if they.
We don't have to go. They can stay right where they are.
Well, can I say something?
You got to make it quick. You're taking a long time to say the same thing over and over.
No, if the country of China gets into a serious economic condition and the leaders see that the only way out of being overthrown, possibly, which probably will not happen in China to the leaders, but would be to start a little war somewhere, like Taiwan would be nothing. How about if they get involved with Australia and some of the countries around there, because they do want some of those islands around and control
Okay, so if we go
waterways.
that route, and back to my point, and we're weakening them economically, and they're not able to add and produce more military because they're not making all this American money, then it still sounds like a win, no?
Well, the problem is they're already got a lot of stuff built up. I mean, they'll have
So
more if they have the
We
economy going.
we should allow China to trade with us in an unfair way, even though they have slave labor and they hate us and they want to take over the world, because you think, because you're afraid of them.
Well, I'm not afraid of them. I do recognize, though, like when I ride public transportation, I recognize when somebody is on the L train, for example, here in Chicago, that doesn't look right, and he's kind of like mumbling stuff and starts swearing, and I recognize I got to be careful and be aware that person is there. China, in a way, is like that also. China can blow up suddenly and make a move militarily somewhere. And
Like
if
they
we
did
have
when?
steady contact with them, you see, where they're dependent on us, we're
Well,
dependent on them.
all right, but you're basing this on what? When was the last time you saw China do that?
Well, that's just it. They're getting closer and closer. They've made it clear they want the Pacific areas near their shores. Taiwan, I believe, is only
Nick,
about.
I'm going to tell you something. You're not answering a lot of the questions I'm asking, and it just sounds like you're on China's payroll. But Godspeed to you, my brother. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. I'm not afraid of China. I think we got to weaken them before we have to fight them. I appreciate it. WLS in the building. Folks, coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, we continue with the phone calls from people all across America and even Canadians. We got them on the phone, too. I want to go to Brody, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You want to weigh in on immigration? Go right ahead. KDK.
Yes, sir. How you doing, sir?
Wonderful, thanks.
Good. I just wanted to tell you there was some kind of a big court decision today that has to. I heard a little bit of it right before your show. It was something to do with the immigration that had to do with a due process or something, and there was a ruling on this.
Yes,
Because at one point,
they supported Trump on it.
yes, and but the thing is, didn't they say that something has to be done about it? So,
Well, I'm sure
in other
somebody
words,
said that something had to be done, but the Supreme Court weighed in and said that Trump's use of the Alien Immigration Act was legal and justified and permitted. And that was the issue. They were saying when you're ejecting people from the country under this law, they're not afforded due process because you're in effect treating them as a terrorist, right? An enemy of the state. So you don't have to give them due process and you're able to get them out quickly. And that's what Trump has been using for the MS-13, Tren de Aragua, and other, organized terrorist gang type of groups. However, they sued because the one guy who is suspected to be one of those cut a deal with immigration, and they said, all right, apply for asylum. He basically said, look, if you guys prosecute me and put me in jail, the gangs will kill me. And because of that, they gave him asylum. And so he's using that as a defense, saying, look, I'm not supposed to be here. But it's not like he didn't have the gang ties. And he's got a good lawyer, and he's got people in the media defending him, saying, the guy's a suburban dad who's got an American wife and an American child, and he's been getting railroaded. But they're leaving out that he's been under investigation for his MS-13 ties since 2019. So that was the part that, a local judge said, you have to bring this guy back. And Trump said no, because he's already in El Salvador and he's in their custody now, and we can't get him back. He's been deported and he's back in his own country, and we don't have control over that country or him. He's their citizen. So it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, yeah, you're right. Can't do nothing about that. This is the president using the Alien and Enemy Act that has been around for a very long time. It's been used a bunch of times, and his use of it was appropriate.
Boy, I tell you what, you really, this is why you have a show, isn't it?
Jeez. You're too kind. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself over here, Brody. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. KDKA. Thank you, sir. Let's continue. I want to go to Robert, Rock Springs, Wyoming, streaming the show, richvaldez.com. Go right ahead.
Hey, Rich, this is Robert.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead. KPOW.
I was just listening to this conversation tonight, and I'm a big Trump supporter, Republican, right wing, whatever you want to call it. And I see, the Democrat Party and all of the lies and all of the things that they've done to try to stop President Trump and to try to stop, try to kill him twice. And, I see it as more than just, political or physical. I see it as a battle between light and darkness, between good and evil, you know, and being a Christian, and that, the left, the far left, the liberals, socialists, communists, they're all anti-God, anti-Christian, and Trump supports, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, the Constitution, the Christianity, Judaism. And, I just see it as this huge fight between light and darkness, between good and evil. And I just want to thank God for President Trump. And I believe that God put him in the position he's in.
Yeah, well, listen, I thank you for that. I think many people agree with you, because when you have somebody who's in the crosshairs of a sniper who's not that far away, even if the sniper is alleged to be some young guy on a roof, despite all the Secret Service and local and state police, and because he looks at the perfect moment to the side and this bullet just grazes his ear because he's looking at the big, beautiful chart saved his life, right? Really. It's very difficult to argue that is not an act of God. It's, I don't care what your faith is, if you're an atheist or what, just thinking that Trump has the best luck in the world. Listen, maybe he does, but he's lucky because God blessed him that way. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one. And I think everything in life, everything. And as I get older, I'm getting better at it, but I'm not where I need to be. Everything is a spiritual battle. And I'm talking about that jerk that flips you the bird on the road in the morning. It's my choice to look at it as this guy's insulting me, or this is a spiritual battle. That guy's having a bad day. He hates the world. He's sour. He needs love, whatever, right? I haven't arrived there, Robert. I'll be honest with you. I take the bait often. But after the show, after tonight, everything calms down, the dust settles, I realize, you know what? I need to do better. Love God, love people, right? And that's how it goes. Robert in Rock Springs, Wyoming, thank you for your call and your insight. God bless you, brother. I appreciate it. KPOW in the building. I'm going to take a pause right here. We're coming right back. Thoughts from Idaho, thoughts from Canada, WVMT, KBOI, and more. 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, to the phones we go. We continue the conversation live and national with me, Rich Valdez. Let's go to our buddy Antonio calling us from WVMT out of Vermont, but listening just north of that in Montreal. Go right ahead.
Rich, good. How are you? I'm listening carefully to your conversation tonight. I'm just going to say this really quickly. Bismarck said that when he was unifying Germany after the Prussian War, he said Germany has no permanent enemies, no permanent friends, only permanent interests. That's Donald Trump. We have no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. We have the America first interest. And Mr. Wonderful from Canada says, put on 400% tariffs. I say no. Put on an embargo on China. Bankrupt China. Put their labor market out of commission, and then you will see a revolution in China. They are the epitome of abuse. And if the American country wants to put them in their place, they would embargo everything that comes from China. And you're right, we would find other products elsewhere in the world from your friendlier countries like Canada and other countries that'll play ball. And you're 100% right. This gentleman, Mr. Trump, knows how to make a deal. I was never afraid of those tariffs for Canada because he knows he's going to make a deal with a proper government. Now, I don't think Mr. Carney is a proper guy. If we get Mr. Polyev, we will be back on track, the United States and Canada. And I love listening to you because you're right. You're educating America, and you are giving us an opportunity to speak freely. That's why I love this station, and I love your show.
Thank you, brother. Very, very kind. I appreciate that. And something I said earlier to a guest we had on from Australia, and sometimes it takes someone from another country to really give you perspective on your own country because sometimes you can't see the forest through the trees. And I was born in Brooklyn, New York. Moved to Jersey when I was 12. I'm still in Jersey. This is still like the sixth borough of New York City, northern New Jersey. But the reality is, I don't know what it's like to deal with the Canadian healthcare system, right? I have met people in my real life that told me it's so bad sometimes we sneak into Michigan to go to the emergency room because if it's a heart problem, you can get an emergency heart treatment in an emergency room, but you can't get it in Canada. And I don't know how realistic that is for everybody, but it was real for the people I was speaking to. And you don't get that perspective because in America, United States, you can be from another country for 5 minutes and walk into an emergency room and get treatment. And those types of things blow me away. So sometimes the perspective you get from somebody that's from somewhere else really is that much more valuable, Tony. Thank you.
No problem. Love your show.
Thank you, brother. God bless you. I appreciate it. Paul in Boise, the cartels know it's not safe to move their product. You're right. That's why they're on the run. Paul, thanks for being faithful, man. The music means I got to go. But I wish everyone a wonderful evening. I say to you, hasta la próxima, which means until the next time, America. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.